10 movies filmed in real graveyards. The profaned corpses in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre were wired to a prop headstone in Baghdad Cemetery in Leander, Texas. The cemetery was established in 1857 with the burial of 3-year-old John Babcock. The obelisk marker behind the film's gruesome tableau is the actual final resting place of Colonel Charles C. Mason, a Civil War veteran and prominent Leander landowner. Mason's 1860s home is a local landmark where the colonel's spectacles, walking stick and wallet are displayed tastefully. In Creed, Rocky Balboa visits the graves of his late wife and brother-in-law in Philadelphia's Laurel Hill Cemetery. It was founded in 1836 by librarian and editor John J. Smith, who said that Philadelphia should have a rural cemetery on dry ground, where feelings should not be harrowed by viewing the bodies of beloved relatives plunged into mud and water. Laurel Hill became much more than that. Its website describes it as a 265-acre arboretum and outdoor sculpture garden rich in cultural and social history. In the 1840s, it had attracted so many visitors that tickets were required for admission. In the film, the characters' headstones are located in the cemetery's south section, but they are now displayed near the main gatehouse. Admission is free. We have come to expect cemeteries to be tranquil parks designed to appeal more to the living than to the dead. But in North America that wasn't always the case. Early 19th century Boston graveyards in particular were neglected, stark and overcrowded. Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge set the standard for rural or garden cemeteries. In 1831 it was initially sculpted from about 72 forested acres. Statues, monuments, ponds and a tower were added, attracting tens of thousands of tourists, including reclusive poet Emily Dickinson. Its grandeur is glimpsed in this scene in Gone Baby Gone. In Interview with the Vampire, Louis chooses immortality in Lafayette Cemetery No. 1. Established in 1833 in what is now New Orleans Garden District, it is divided into 4 quadrants by 2 intersecting aisles that form the shape of a cross. The aisles, once paved with shells, are wide enough to accommodate funeral processions. In fact, the late Anne Rice was carried through the cemetery in a coffin on a horse-drawn hearse to promote her novel, Memnoch the Devil. The more than 7,000 people buried in Lafayette No. 1 include Civil War veterans, consorts, and a person struck by lightning. During the yellow fever outbreak, bodies were left at the cemetery's gates. About 613 of them made it inside. Rice's vampire Lestat is also buried in Lafayette No. 1, but Rice herself is not. She's interred in her family mausoleum in Cemetery Cemetery, where presumably she will be safe from all manner of bloodsuckers. One of the most memorable characters in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is Little Wendy, a cemetery sculpture. She was created in Illinois in 1936 and sold to a Savannah, Georgia family who placed her in their plot at the Bonaventure Cemetery. Little Wendy was originally named Bird Girl because the bowls in her hands were designed to hold seed and water for birds. She became a popular tourist attraction following her appearance on the cover of the best-selling novel, which was the basis for the film, and was subsequently removed from the cemetery. She is now on display at Savannah's Telfair Jepson Museum. But there are plenty of other beautiful statues to visit at the Bonaventure. The opening scene in George Romero's 1968 classic horror movie Night of the Living Dead was filmed in Evans City Cemetery near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was founded on January 7, 1891 after the town's 4 existing graveyards were closed due to potentially toxic water drainage. The headstone marking the grave of Barbara and Johnny's father belongs to George and Grace Cole, a local couple who died in the 1940s. In 1985, a tornado traversed the cemetery, unearthing 361 headstones and 0 zombies. The pet cemetery in the movie of the same name never existed. It was constructed for the film, but the People's Cemetery does. It is Mount Hope, in Bangor, Maine. Built in 1834, it is the second oldest garden cemetery in the U.S. It was designed by Charles G. Bryant, an architect, soldier, and American expansionist who was killed and scalped by Apache Indians. That's an ending Stephen King could have written. Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery is the setting for the funeral of Boston cop Billy Costigan's mother in The Departed. Costigan leads a double life as an undercover police officer investigating a mob boss. His moral ambiguity is not unlike real-life J. Marion Sims, a physician buried in Greenwood. Sims was called the grandfather of gynecology for his many contributions to the field. But he also performed experimental surgeries without anesthesia on enslaved black women. In 1894, a statue of Sims was erected in Bryant Park in New York City. In 2018, protesters had it taken off its pedestal. It's said to be keeping company with Sims' corpse in Greenwood Cemetery. Old Burial Hill, shown in this scene in Hocus Pocus, originated in 1638, more than 50 years before the Salem witch trials. The graveyard near Salem in Marblehead, Massachusetts is the burial grounds of about 600 Revolutionary War soldiers. And one accused witch, Wilmot Red of Marblehead, was hanged in 1692 for having committed sundry acts of witchcraft upon villagers. A stone in Old Burial Hill is etched with her name. But unlike the witches in Hocus Pocus, the whereabouts of her body is unknown. The Godfather, Vito Corleone, was buried in Calvary Cemetery in Queens, New York. Established in 1848, Calvary is one of the oldest cemeteries in the United States. Real-life mobsters are also interred in the cemetery. Crime boss Thomas Lucchese rests in plot 164, grave 13. More than 1,000 mourners attended Lucchese's 1967 funeral, including politicians, policemen, drug pushers, and pimps. According to the Godfather Wiki, Lucchese's extravagant exit may have been the inspiration for Don Corleone's funeral. Thanks for watching.